All right, welcome. Avatar Interop Meetup number 5, and let's just recap where we were at last week. So basically, um, we talked about Ready Player Me's, we talked about TV head avatars, and TV head avatars, wait for the slide to update, are rather interesting because in this design, you could basically easily go from any kind of like 2D social media profile to a 3D like embodied internet like metaverse avatar seamlessly. And there's different types, like Hub's avatars are kind of TV Teletubbies. We've got one of the astronauts here as well, and when you share your like webcam, it's a face in there. We've got like an Invader Zim model. Blitmots from the Blitmaps project, Dom, who's the creator of Vine, and also like he created Loot and now is working on Supdrive, which is kind of like on-chain video games. He's got those characters at the bottom, which it's kind of like this universe that he's building, but it's a really interesting composable like example because he basically wrote a smart contract in which the on-chain Blitmaps then compose onto those 3D avatars, which are also NFTs, which are on-chain because they're generated by SVGs. And I just really like the way that him and this crowd is thinking about composability and CC0 storytelling as like expansion packs. So definitely someone to follow. We also kind of quickly we discussed the community infrastructure updates, such as a calendar. Please look at the GitHub in order to subscribe. We have events all throughout the week, so like this one is just kind of like a opportunity to gather and share like projects that we're working on. But other times during the week, we do virtual productions, we do working groups, we do workshops. That is all in the GitHub as well. And next, we also have GitHub discussion set up. So every week, the slide presentations, notes, and video recordings are uploaded and linked here. So that is also available for everyone. And we could, easily, quickly onboard and just have this kind of back catalog available for anyone who's new. Meeting notes from the first 4 meetups are there. And finally, Sobol, or sorry, I should say the wiki. The wiki is being updated with basically avatars, wearables, and animations that we can all use in our projects, especially collaborative projects. So when you want to kind of lab different Interop examples or demos, feel free to pick something off the shelf. And also kind of I have bits about why it's interesting, because I think every kind of thing on there serves an interesting purpose of like, okay, like this one's a biped pet, this one's a it has this kind of future which would be interesting to explore, etc. And lastly, wait for the slide to update. Oh, and see this badge? Yeah, you can get this POAP, which is also a wearable, for your wearable by doing the Get Good guide.
The badge on the skateboard is awesome. Now, is a skateboard a vehicle or is it a wearable?
Both.
Yeah, I got plans to put it into a like an actual thing you can put on with an animation, and then maybe that changes your speed.
And yeah, now we also have a Sobol, which this is kind of like a look at the virtual production arm of M3, in which we do like content production, and we want to really get into virtual production type stuff. So as an avatar interop group, like first we get our avatars ready, and then when we go on like field trips, when we go on world hops and demo nights, we basically are creating a content and documentation out of those events that we could upload to various sites, YouTube, Twitch, social media, to kind of promote the activities that are going on in our network in a really awesome, entertaining, engaging way. So like, I'll get more into it later on, but yeah, this kind of aspect of like decentralized Hollywood is something that I think like avatars are going to be a building block of. And if you look at some of the like flywheels of like Disney, for example, back in 1957, that graphic, you see like they have like, from the creative studios, it spins out into merch, it spins out into like theme parks and comics, etc. So this is like one part of it that I think is going to be important for the ecosystem, especially as more and more collections are creating 3D avatars. And once people have those game dev ready assets, they can use them in different engines, they can use them to animate with. The community can then become kind of like remote actors in this decentralized Hollywood thing. In terms of weekly news, so someone from the Discord and who's big in the Japanese VR community created a really cool demo where he basically got ENS domains to register his VRM avatar as an avatar record on there, so he's able to sign in to a virtual world platform, and it automatically detects his avatar. And he wrote some instructions. I'll get to that in a sec. We talked with Cyber Brokers, which on-chain NFT collection made by Josie and team they're all OGs in the community. And I think it's a really interesting kind of project to explore because like typically on-chain stuff that has art is like portrait shots, but this one is like full body shots. So it'd be really interesting to kind of explore progressive enhancement of such. We made some demos of Tubby Pets and Super Yetis. Yuga Labs dropped a video kind of teasing their metaverse play that's coming out soon, which, we kind of discussed that last week. And MetaLoot is getting some more teasers out there. If y'all heard of any other kind of interesting news, please ping me, because I do want to kind of like be better at aggregating these things. Maybe we can just kind of like pin stuff in a newsstand channel or something. I'm not sure, but like anything that's avatar Interop related, I'd love maybe like to include more community engagement and just kind of reviewing what's been going on in this space. Especially if like someone's built something interesting, we can dive into it. And so like if you want to try to set up a demo with an ENS avatar, you can go to the ENS app and you edit the avatar record. And in the Discord, if you search this up, you can see like an example of what you input into that record. And what he used was a VRM NFT Metanis. And if you have something else like a VRM, or maybe it's a sprite sheet, or maybe multiple, it'd be good to do more tests of this in different virtual worlds. I think it's a really cool experiment. I wonder why my slides take forever to update. All right. NFT pets. So when it comes to like avatar Interop, I don't think every like avatar is going to be your avatar. Some of them will be companions, and some of them will be NPCs. And so, the whole field of avatar Interop goes pretty far and deep when it comes to like wearables as well. I think companions kind of qualify as that especially if they follow you around in the world. And so we made some demos of Tubby Pets, and this is kind of like over here, the what it looks like in terms of the metaverse file, which is something that Webaverse, a spec that they proposed for. Basically, it's like a JSON file that adds a little bit of, like what you attach something to in terms of also like animation. So if you wanted to make a pet, all you really need to do is you need a GLB that has an animation. The most basic pet, I think, is like something that flies around you. And so if you have like a flying pet, you can just like point to that. But if you have a walking pet, it's good to have like an idle animation and a walk. Otherwise, it like, when it stops, it kind of like freezes in its walk animation. And if you want your pet to kind of look up at you, there's a key value for the looking, which is really cool because it just brings it to life when it just kind of like you walk up to it and it just kind of like stares at you. So that's what it looks like. There's a example repo in the GitHub as well. Strafing would be, I think it's all possible. This is a very basic example that we made. Try not to touch the screen. I don't know how to pin it. Sorry. And in a second, I'll show you what it looks like in world once you have it working. If you want to zoom in, all you have to do is right click it. Just right click it once. Alright, so this is what it looks like when it's following you around in the world. And you can kind of also see, how it looks up at you. And this is all based on the VRM armature, by the way. So just to keep that in mind, but more info on GitHub. And next we also have like a bigger pet, which is also based on an NFT. Now this one had like some issues initially because, first you get a blend file with basically everything, and it wasn't really like rigged the right way, especially with the shoulders. And so it took some work in order to like manually reposition some bones. Otherwise, like the arms were like inside of its giant like tubby body. And fur was also a problem. So like it was 95,000 triangles, which is way above, I think, like any kind of platform would want. If you are looking for like a guideline on how to make avatars that work across many different platforms, I posted guidelines in here, and I kind of basically referenced VRChat's Quest guidelines, which I think are really good because VRChat has the most kind of custom avatars out of any platform, so there's already a kind of a big community there and a big repo of avatars, but also I think the guidelines are really sensible in how many like triangles and materials you should use if you want to have like really good performance. And I think a rating system is the right way to go. So like based on a person's PC specs, you can adjust them automatically or manually if you wish. So so the yetis are awesome. They're huge, and as a pet, I think it would be badass, to have as your bodyguard, just kind of like menacingly standing right behind you, especially the ones with boxing gloves, which is included in the blend file. But it also is interesting when it comes to what it can also be as a mount. So some pets, like I'm sure there's some Pokemon videos of Ash like flying on like Charizard's back or something. But you could basically use this Yeti as a example of a biped mount that you could like piggyback and ride around the metaverse with. So that's why I included it in the wiki as an example for us to play with as both a pet and a mount. And yeah, it's just pretty adorable too. And this is the only picture I could find of piggybacking on a Yeti. But yeah, I think y'all get the what I'm going for there. So that is going to be the next experiment with these Super Yetis. Yetis are pretty, yeah, I mean, I don't know why people doubt them. They're like 3D. They released the blend files. I guess the art just throws people off, but I think, you know, they strike a good balance of cute and, I mean, people like apes too. And Yetis are like, you know, mythical creatures that thrive in cold environments. So I feel like they're like able to not only like survive, but probably like thrive in crypto winters. So I feel like they're like the apex predator. Next, we discussed like the Yuga Labs Otherside video, and this shot was like one of the most talked about frames out of that video, and I think there's a lot for us to learn from, and this is what I really want to do with this group. So I've been telling people like, okay, like we got to get our custom avatars first, because we're gonna, you know, be doing a lot of virtual world testing, and you're gonna want your own avatar when we're not just gonna meet up in hubs, we're gonna meet up in other platforms in the future as well. So and something that we want to do is like create new shelling points. And right here, you know, I think when it comes to like any kind of metaverse like shelling point, it involves a lot of crossover IP, and that's something we want to have in our production. So, you know, make some custom avatars, and we're gonna have a whole like shelf full of NFT 3D avatars as well, and we're gonna create some photo shoots together. And I just thought it was interesting because you know, you've got like basically the who's who of like really popular projects in here, but like what about everything else? Like who is curating everything, and who's the storytellers? You know what I mean? Like, or is this just going to be like you know, a metaverse where it's going to be like the popular kids at school? Like what about, you know, Super Yetis, for example, or Tubby Cats and stuff that's 3D? Like, are they going to be part of this? So it's just kind of interesting. They released basically this trailer, and there's a leaked slide deck, and we don't know too much, but they're like supposedly planning a land sale, which I find is, I mean, don't they have enough money? I don't know. But I do think it is going to be an interesting contrast to what we see from Ready Player One and Fortnite, which both of these projects include a lot of crossover IP from big Hollywood studios and whatnot. And so on to MetaLoot. MetaLoot is, we're going to take things a step further because we're just so meta. Like, we're going to do interoperable wearables across our custom NFT avatars and regular avatars. You know, it doesn't have to all be NFTs. We want to experiment with everything because it's not going to be one or the other. It's positive sum. And this was very, very early concept art, and it's just kind of like Vroid looking models. We want to, you know, have a hero shot including all sorts of different types of characters, big and small, and of different styles. So, and then once we have our avatars, we're gonna, you know, equip them and then go on adventures and LARP our way through interoperability examples and projects. through like metaverse world hops. If you haven't seen like South Park's episodes of, like I think they were memeing on, what was that one show, Game of Thrones. Yeah, I would recommend checking it out. So it's gonna probably have that kind of vibe where, we're just basically Lord of the Rings. Okay, yeah, it might be that as well. And essentially that is kind of like the plans for this group where, we leave the Shire per se and we go on an adventure through other virtual worlds, but with our avatars or our avatar wearables. I've already got basically the meta loot set completed for any kind of like, it's GLBs first, but then we also have all of them voxelized, so we can enter, like we can probably mint Sandbox or CryptoVoxel wearables. CryptoVoxel wearables definitely first, because Sandbox format is pretty niche. And yeah, the Weverse team gave us a preview what the NFTs look like, and they are just amazing. This isn't the one-to-one like loot bag, but just to give you an idea of what the NFTs are going to look like, they're going to be like, they just knocked it out of the park in terms of the quality and the rendering. So that is basically kind of going to be available to all of us to build on. They are remixable, they are CC0, and aligning ourselves with that community of people that are interested in like composable and decentralized storytelling, and this progressive enhancement from on-chain to like 3D worlds. I think it's going to be a really great alignment of like the most interesting minds from the crypto space and from the 3D/VR space coming together to really experiment on this fertile ground for exploration. And so once you have your avatar made, we'll do a workshop on how to gear them up. I'll do like a live stream and go through the steps in Blender on how to equip it. Here's like an example with a Bored Ape, and so if you want to get real fancy, you could mint a free bag of mLoot and just like basically equip your custom avatar based on the mLoot bag that you have. It's only going to cost you gas, and I think it's going to be like making things way more interesting when you have that, because then you can connect on-chain like metadata NFTs to like a 3D avatar, or should I say like wearables and then a 3D avatar. So there's many layers to this that I think is going to be really fun to explore together. And something that I learned is so I do like wearables with MetaFactory, and I learned that shipping wearables with the armatures it makes life so much easier when you're doing custom avatar, like configuring wearables onto them. Because if without such, like I had to move the arms over here, and I basically had no choice but to move the vertices. So I was like, no, I don't want to do that. If I exported everything with the rig, then I could just go into pose mode and then move the arms like so that they're close enough, and then I could basically sculpt things to get it just right, like the perfect fit. So I think this is something that isn't like standardized, but I think it should be when it comes to wearables, is shipping with like an armature. So when you have like a custom avatar, it's way faster and more efficient to equip onto it rather than pushing around vertices individually. And so this is how it looks. I just saved so much time just basically swinging the arm so like the sleeves matched with the arms, and then I could basically sculpt it to get the mesh just right. And big thanks to Galad. I think he was in the audience here before. but he really helped with just pointing out like this brush being super useful in this. And yeah, and good thing is that all the meta loot is already attached to armatures, so it's already like set up for us. And the armature is based on the VRM armature that the Blender plugin ships with. So Weverse has obviously thought ahead, and that's another reason why we want to really align closely with them in building out Avatar Interop like standards and experimentations. And here's a look at the blend file.
Does the VRM skeleton that Blender ships with, is that kind of used like the standard VRM skeleton?
Yes, I think it is according to like the site. I'll double check on that. But the standard is like, it's still a draft, like 1.0 for the VRM like spec isn't out yet. It's like really close to finish, but it's, just to let you know, it's still kind of like draft phase at the moment. But we have all the loot modeled and set up in this way. So I think like a great way to start is just like picking up a mloot bag, and then I can you can pull this off GitHub, or I can like we'll do a workshop. But next steps probably like grab an mloot bag, and then like let's organize a workshop to work on equipping our avatars with custom wearables, because it's probably going to be trickier than you think for some things, like which bone to attach to and how to make it fit. Like shoes maybe sometimes are tricky, things like that. And we it'd be a good practice and exercise to try with different avatars too, so you don't have to just do it with a Vroid or make something like humanoid like that. Like if you want to be a super yeti, I mean, I will help you 100%. I will hook it up. I got you. I would love if we have basically a wardrobe full of characters that you can pick from. If you want to pick any of them, that would be awesome. And finally, I just want to mention, Dank Nugz are coming, because 420 is getting close, and it's going to be a good time to release them. And this is basically my way of funding open source metaverse projects in this space, because I don't think it's happening fast enough in terms of public goods funding. Nobody wants to kind of donate to these projects unless there's like a NFT first. So this is what it'll go towards basically grants and donations and M3 treasury. And it'll be also, I guess, fun for us to explore with Avatar Interop group for like, I don't know, pets or consumables, like what can avatars do in virtual worlds? Maybe we could play around with that. And that's all I've got. So let me know if you have any questions or comments.
Oh, I had a question regarding to. My microphone is on. Regarding to the formats that you think are gonna be that we're gonna be able to get on chain. Do you think it's gonna be VRMs, GLBs? Like regarding that, what are your thoughts?
So I think we haven't seen too much on-chain 3D stuff in general. There's an excellent write-up on the subject in which someone like kind of broke down the steps on doing so, and it was a very low poly thing. So there is something called there's been a challenge on Twitter called 256 Fest, and I think that's a good place to start if we wanted to see if we could upload a really, really low poly 3D avatar all on chain. And then because VRM is so close to GLTF, we already kind of have a starting base of someone who kind of like did a similar act VRM kind of adds a layer on top of GLTF, so we can just follow that guide. But I don't think it's been done before. I personally am a fan of VRM for avatars, but they're very closely related together. So yeah, that would be fun for this group to explore.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
Is my mic good?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, what's up, man? Great stuff you guys are doing. So a few years ago, I was trying to do this, like NFT, but like pets, So I actually designed a bunch of them, and I had a designer. I mean, I had a 3D modeler do it for me. So I got GLBs and GLTFs with animations,
Hell yeah.
and like I'm trying to do something, and I want to like work with somebody here.
Sweet. Yeah. Feel free to drop some examples in the screenshots channel. And yeah, let's talk afterwards.
Cool.
Tao said, are you imagining that loot-based wearable will be able to change in-game based on an external data source? I'm kind of imagining a lot of things and of like what we can do, because like loot doesn't have like a like canonical like representation of what it should look like. It just started out as like metadata and left to the artist's imagination of what it can be. So I think there's a lot of room for just exploration and what we can do from like on-chain data sources or things that are off-chain. I'm bringing together ingredients, and M3 is kind of like the hackerspace / kitchen that we're all cooking stuff up, and while making a cooking show out of it, I guess, as well. Alrighty, well,
I know we're talking about like online stuff.
Yeah.
Just want to mention that the usually when I use my Jarek avatar, I'm in single player mode. So y'all can't forget about people who want to play single player stuff, or at least stuff by themselves still. So there's like a lot to think about beyond just getting the avatars in there. What are you going to do with the avatars after you get in there? And is it going to be single player, multiplayer?
Yeah, these are good questions that we should kind of like include in notes. And I think, like when we do world hops or like, like demos with these examples and these initiatives, that we kind of like use GitHub discussions to kind of keep a thread going. You can write about stuff, like record it in a video, and we can kind of like do a write-up or something later, or someone else can. But yeah, I think like VRM, for example, I like to bring it in single player games all the time. Like Craftopia is mostly single player. Valheim is another game that's like single player.
Yeah, Craftopia is what I had in mind. I'm always by myself building my tower in there.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening.